والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. We continue in Kitab al-Nikah by the great Imam. This tremendous book in fiqh and jurisprudence with a great illustrious Imam Al-Hafiz Ahmed ibn Ali ibn Hajar Al-Asqalani rahimahullah al-Mutawaffa sanata 800 sanata 852. The illustrious Imam Ahmed ibn Ali ibn Hajar Al-Asqalani, who died Sana Al-Mutawaffa sanata 852, who died 852 after the Hijrah of Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. As we continue in Kitab al-Nikah, the chapter of marriage, and we were still discussing the marriages that are invalid in the religion of Al-Islam. And alhamdulillah, we've been discussing it for a long time. If you look at all of the brothers or the sisters return and do a little bit of review, you'll find that we've been covering all the marriages that are invalid. For example, the marriage without a wali, or for example, a marriage without two upright witnesses. Well, those marriages, as we know, are batil, they're invalid. No. Also, likewise, for example, the hadith which we covered, لا تنكح الأيم حتى تستأمر ولا تنكح البكر حتى تستأذن. That the woman who's previously married before, but she's looking to get married again, she says she's not married off until her command is sought or permission is sought. And likewise, the virgin, she's not married off until it is sought her permission. We talked about those ahadith and how if a person was to force a woman in marriage with a particular person who's not compatible for her, or she did not want to marry him, she did not want to marry him initially, then she has the, as they say, laha khiyar al-fasakh. She has the alternative to invalidate or to nullify and validate the marriage, or to now invalidate the marriage. And she can raise her affair to the authorities as far as the masajid or what have you. So a person, and in this religion, women are not forced in marriages that they are not comfortable or nor that they want to be in. We said that there's only one exception to the rule, and that's in regards to a woman or a girl, if we was properly in a society that wasn't full of perverted people who've been affected by the nasty ideologies of the West. And if it was in a sound society, of course, and things were practiced and implemented properly, then a woman or girl, likewise in her youth, would be married off, and the father, of course, can determine who would be befitting for her. Because a woman, of course, that is shy, has no knowledge about men, does not know what's good for her at a young age. So the father would come and he would find a man who is befitting for her to marry. And he will look, and that is the exception for a small virgin woman or a small virgin girl that has reached the age of puberty or before that. As like we said, if you discuss in the history, and I think I gave the assignment to our sisters of speaking of, I think it was about pertaining to not slavery, just slavery. Did I assign to the sisters to listen to the lecture of our brother Abu Khadija pertaining to marrying off, or how Islam does not call to what they call, what the society, what they call it again? Oh man, when you pray a person that's underage, what's the name of the word again? What is the name of when a person or a man, he basically now he's intimate, or he marries a woman, a little girl? No. what is the name of the word when you come for a girl that's youthful? Or that girl that's, basically a man is intimate with a little girl. What do they call it? No. Man, what is the word? But anyway, I can't think. I'll remember the words that goes along. But anyway, they saying that Islam calls to this matter. Rather, it doesn't. You'll find that Islam calls to what? To marriage. And marrying a woman at a youthful age was something that is what? I'm sorry? Pedophilia. That's the word. Pedophilia. That's the word I was looking for. Pedophilia. Or pedophilia. In the British, they say pedophilia. Pedophilia. Here in America, I think they say pedophilia, pedophilia. But at any rate. So, but however, in this country, even though pedophilia is on the rise here, they're trying to legalize it now. But at any rate, after they outlawed it, now they're trying to legalize it. But at any rate, for that reason, you'll find now they're trying to legalize it. It's a group in Virginia. They're trying to legalize it now. But at any rate, as far as in pedophilia, you'll find that women, by their natural bodies, of course, mature a lot faster than men. You even find that a lot of women, of course, they come and have their ments at age 9. Some of them have their ments at age 10, or other than that. And we knew during the time before the Western society was established, way before, that everyone was doing it. The Christians, the Jews, the polytheists, you name it. This was something that was acceptable in society. Nobody thought it was something strange. It was something that was known. But however, the Western society demonized something, but at the same time what's so strange is they're trying to legalize what they so-called demonize. So, what we say in this regard, that Al-Islam, what the religion calls to, and we do not condone that a person marry a girl that's under the age in which the lands of the law has forbidden. Nobody's saying to do that. But however, do not accuse us, the Muslims in our religion, of calling this something that is known, that was known for centuries and years, that was established and known and acceptable with the society. Don't try to criticize us to the point where now you're starting to so-called trying to legalize it because you knew it was right, because you knew this was the truth. And alhamdulillah, that's a refutation against those weak Muslims out there that try to apologize. Oh yeah, we apologize, for a person marrying a girl 8, 9, 10. We apologize for that. No, we apologize for it. That was something that was known in society for centuries and years, which was acceptable before the West came and tried to demonize something. But at the same time, like we said, now you're starting on so-called what? Allah is making his signs clear, where you're now starting to set out to legalize it. So now we're not saying to condone to marry a girl. We're talking about in a society that is a sound society that has not been affected by porn, homosexuality, and all the other filth that pollutes people's minds. We're not talking about that. We're talking about society that's truly practicing Islam purely and correctly. So there's not men that's just marrying little girls just to be perverted. They're just marrying the little girls because they'll marry a youthful little woman who knows how to be a woman because they know that it's something that Allah legislated, not because it's something he read out of a porno movie. So we're not talking about that type of society. But at any rate, that is the only exception in which we'll find that if the father will step in and find a man that is what? Suitable for his daughter or for his young daughter, if that was the case. If we were in that type of society. And these days and times, like we said, of course, in the laws of the land, forbids that, and we do not encourage people to do that or practice this so it can subject them now to being in trouble with the law. So we're not telling our brothers and sisters to do this. Rather, but if we were in a sound society in Islam, there would be absolutely nothing wrong with this. Of course, if it was a society where it was stable and sound, and they was implementing the religion properly. Not a religion or not a society that has been nurtured upon filth and nasty, perverted ideologies. طيب. So that was the hadith which we covered. We talked about that. And also the hadith of nikah al-shighar, the impermissibility of a marriage called shighar. We talked about that too, I think a couple of months ago. There's a nikah called al-shighar. Shighar meaning that there's an exchange. I think I spoke about this, right? That a person, for example, nikah al-shighar, for example, if a person, that there's no dowry that's stipulated, for a man marries his, for example, another man comes, he has a daughter, and the other man, the other party, the second party has a daughter, they said there's no diary. But you marry your daughter to me, that'll be the diary. I marry my daughter off to you, that's the diary khalas. That's called nikah al-shighar. The Prophet ﷺ prohibited that. You'll find that the hadith here, even though the hadith lahu hukm al-rafi', even though it's from the kalam of a sahabi, from the tabi'een, but however the hadith lahu hukm al-rafi'. It has the hukm of the hadith, where this type of marriage is impermissible. And we just didn't say there has to be stipulated in the diary, but rather if it's any type of exchange. And it could be another person in one's family. So it's not just restricted to one's daughter. Some person might read this book and say, well, that's only particularly pertaining to one's daughter. No. Even if it's your mother, your sister, whoever. Like, you marry my sister off to you, I marry my sister off to you, you marry your sister off to me. Or I marry my daughter off to you, you marry your mother off to me. Or I marry my mother off to you, you marry your sister off to me. All that's nikah al-shighar. All that is nikah, where it's an exchange. It's an exchange. It's just almost like we said, as if they're making a woman like a type of what? A commodity or some type of merchandise that's sold. All that's called nikah al-shighar. All that's called nikah al-shighar. طيب. We said that those type of marriages are invalid. That marriage, if one was to do it, we said with Allah it's invalid. طيب. The next type of marriage we said that was also not acceptable is when a woman is forced to marry a man that she's not pleased with. So she has the choice. She could go to the what? To those who are in charge and have her marriage, have the marriage contract void or null and void or what have you. طيب. We also talked about the hadith al-Hasan on the authority of Samurah, that the Prophet ﷺ said, any woman that is married by two walis, meaning she has two walis. We talked about this. Two walis. And both of them married her off. Then the marriage is valid for the what? For the first. For the first of the two. Or the first of the wali that married the woman off, of course. And we talked about the great Imam Sheikh Salih Fawzan. He mentioned it, said, if it's not known the time, whereas maybe both of the one who's in charge of the affairs of the woman are ignorant of the time. Like one is not sure what time I married her off. What was it? 8 o'clock? No, I married her off 7:30 or what have you, or to the end of it. If it's not known the time, then he said that both of them are rendered invalid. Both marriages are rendered invalid. طيب. We also talked about in regards to the concubine or the slave being married off without the permission of the one who's in charge of his affairs. And this is also why I gave the assignment to our sisters about slavery in Islam. Reading and listening to the lecture so they can have a rebuttal for those who want to try to cast doubt in their minds about Islam calling to slavery. Especially you run into people who are from the nation of Islam using this against what you're upon. So I told the brothers and sisters to listen to the lecture by our brother Abu Khadija, who did an excellent job about and giving in detail the difference between the slavery in Islam and the slavery of the West, or the East, or the Eurocentric Western slavery or the Western civilization, or the Eurocentric slavery, and the difference between that and the slavery of Islam. And I told the sisters to listen to it, and it's very informative. So you can have a type of protection when Shaitan tries to send someone from the people of the deviant sex and the people of Kufr in order to cast some doubt in your mind about what you're upon. And I told the sisters to listen to it. They remember? So he gave a detailed, informative lecture, which inshallah that will be an aid. So if someone tries to say, well, Islam calls to slavery. And you'll be able to break down the difference between the slavery of Islam and the slavery of the West, or the Eurocentric evil, oppression, slavery of the West. And it's two different things. And one cannot compare one with the other. طيب. But at any rate, in this hadith, we talked about if the one who was a concubine or a slave was to get married without the permission of the one who's in charge over him, then likewise his marriage or her marriage is invalid. Then we moved on to the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu, which says, وَلَا يُجْمَعْ بَيْنَ الْمَرْأَةِ وَعَمَّتِهَا وَلَا بَيْنَ الْمَرْأَةِ وَخَالَتِهَا. It is not gathered between a woman and her maternal aunt, or a woman and her paternal aunt. We said that likewise this marriage of a person is to gather between his maternal and maternal aunt, then this marriage likewise are invalid. We also talked about the type of marriages that are invalid is those marriages between a person marrying a woman and her sister at the same time. If he does that, then the marriage is invalid. If he marries a woman and her sister at the same time, then likewise it is invalid. So it's not permissible for a man to marry a sister, or a woman, or a Muslim woman, of course, and her sister and do it at the same time. So now we caught up just a bit. I just want to do a little light review. So now we caught up. And the next narration from those marriages that are invalid. From those marriages that are invalid is the hadith of Uthman, where he says, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا ينكح المحرم ولا ينكح رواه مسلم وفي رواية له ولا يخطب وزاد ابن حبان ولا يخطب عليه. To the end of it. Another narration of Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما قال تزوج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ميمونة وهو محرم. حديث متفق عليه. ولمسلم عن ميمونة نفسها رضي الله عنها أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم تزوجها وهو حلال. So that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم had mentioned and said that لا ينكح المحرم. Who's a muhrim, sisters? Al-muhrim is the one who's performing either Hajj or Umrah. And we know that a muhrim, or assuming the state of ihram, happens when a person passes the miqat, as we know. The miqat are the set places that the Messenger of Allah has set during his time, that if a person intends to make Umrah, and we know Umrah can be made all throughout the year. If a person makes Umrah, or if he makes Hajj, he has to be in a state of ihram first. And the miqat, or the mawaqit, are those different places that the Prophet ﷺ set based upon the direction that one is entering the country in or the city in. And all of them have been what? Set, whether they be in the south, or whether it be in the east, whether it be in the west and the north, or whether a person is even leaving out from Medina, going towards Mecca. There's different mawaqit. And in these present day times, you'll find that those mawaqit, or those places are considered the miqat, are masajid. The masajid, in order for people to know that if you want to perform Umrah, and if you want to perform Hajj, and if you want to assume the state of ihram, meaning that sacred state that one starts before he now initiates his worship or his nusuk, as far as Hajj and Umrah, that he has to be in a state of ihram. So when he's in a state of ihram and he passes the miqat, and he's on his way to Mecca, or he's on his way to Mecca, Mecca, he's going to Mecca, and he's performing the Hajj and Umrah, and he's in the state of ihram. Now he's in a state where certain things are haram upon him, that they are halal in a state before he passes the miqat and he's not in ihram. From those affairs that are haram, or those affairs that are unlawful before you assume the state of ihram, is getting married. So once a person passes the miqat and he's in the state of ihram, it's unlawful for him to marry. It's unlawful for him to marry and even indulge in affairs of marriage once he's in a state of ihram. And we know that a man, once he passes the miqat and he's in a state of ihram, that sacred state, to perform the rituals of Hajj and Umrah, that he wears that izar and that rida, he wears the top cloth part, I'm sure the sisters are familiar with, and the bottom part, which is white. I'm sure some of the sisters have seen some of the images of people wearing those two garments for when they want to perform Hajj or Umrah. Is anyone familiar with that? No. So those two garments for the man only, not for the woman, for the man, that is to show that he passed the miqat. He passed the miqat, and now he's in a state of ihram. He makes what they call his talbiyah, calling out to Allah, then now he's in that state. Once he's in that state, like we said, certain affairs are haram upon him. From those affairs is, like we said, marriage. From those affairs are marriage. Now, if a person now was to involve or indulge in affairs of marriage, why is it ihram? Is his marriage valid or invalid? Or if let's just say he marries, while he's in the state of ihram, he marries a woman. And likewise, a woman marries him. Is the marriage valid or not? And that's what we're going to discuss. So now he's in the state ihram. So it clearly says in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, what does it say? لا ينكح المحرم لا ينكح المحرم ولا ينكح. So the Prophet ﷺ prohibited what? Two affairs. The first one is that he doesn't what? Doesn't marry. And the second one isn't what? The second one is he doesn't marry anyone off. So not only does he marry, meaning himself, but he doesn't marry anyone off. And in another narration it says, وَلَا يَخْطُبْ, meaning he doesn't even propose. Doesn't make a proposal. وَلَا يُخْطَبَ عَلَيْهِ. And as we'll talk about, he doesn't make a contract, or nor does he even seek it. Nor does he even what? Seek it, or allowing one to say, are you interested in marriage? In this particular state, you would say no. So we'll talk about the meaning of that love, la yukhtab alayh. That means he doesn't seek it, nor does he make the contract. Doesn't make any contract. So while he's in the state of these type of ritual, or this sacred state, he's in this to perform the rituals or the rites of Hajj and Umrah, or Hajj or Umrah, it doesn't matter each one. So if you're in the state of ihram, these affairs become unlawful. طيب, is the marriage of a person like what? If he was to be in the state of ihram, is his marriage valid or not? If he was to now become married, or he marries a sister while he's in the state of ihram. This is what the ulama mention in this regard, what the great Imam Sheikh Salih Fawzan even mentions. It says this. He said, فيه نوع آخر من الأنكحة الباطلة. Listen to this. So notice he called it from the marriages that are invalid. From the marriages that are invalid. Al-nikah or al-ankiha al-batila. Those invalid marriages. And as nikah al-muhrim, the marriage of a person who's in the state of ihram. So if he is to now intend, or assume the state of ihram, intending hajj or umrah, it's not permissible for him to indulge in these matters. Meaning that he makes a wedding contract for himself, or he aids someone else in another marriage contract. Because the Prophet ﷺ said he doesn't marry what? Marry anyone off either. So he doesn't get married, so the person doesn't get married, nor does he marry anyone off. As long as he's in the state of ihram. Because it's a sacred state where he's involved inside of a tremendous aspect of worship. He's involved in a tremendous affair of worship. And we know not only Hajj is obligatory once in one's lifetime, also Umrah is obligatory once in one's lifetime. Yes, it is. It's both. A lot of people don't know that. Or some people don't know that. So not only Hajj is obligatory once in his life, likewise Umrah. The Umrah is obligatory once too. The Umrah is obligatory for those who have the ability, of course. You have the monetary ability and the physical ability, then one should try to strive towards performing this duty that's considered a pillar of our religion, which is Hajj. And it's a shame that I've seen that some of our brothers and sisters in communities, they have the nicest car. They've been to the islands 7 times. They've been to the islands 3 times. They've been to Florida. They've been to all these other places. And they've been to all these different types of vacation spots, or these places where they took vacation. And you'll ask them, when did you make Hajj or Umrah? Never. So that's the reason why we should try to strive towards what? And once that, and I've told everyone that's made Hajj or made Umrah, it's changed their life. It gave you a whole different outlook and changed their whole mindset. Anybody that made Hajj or Umrah, went overseas and have done it, it came back with a different outlook on life, usually. So I tell the brothers and sisters, if you have, and you see, take your tax money, take your whatever money you have, whatever they have, not income tax, I said tax money, income tax, whatever these days, and then try to make sacrifices. Make sacrifices with your husband. It's the most beautiful thing that you and your wife together, or the wife and the husband, embark upon experience that both of them never have done together. And it will increase your love with your spouse. Instead of going to Hawaii, going to Cancun, and to going to all these other places they have done probably 10 times and over. But there's never the thought of making Hajj or Umrah, which is an obligation. Once in your life, try to take the initiative to do it. Like I said, you go over there, it'll change your life. It'll give you a different outlook. It'll change your perspective of life, inshallah, and it will help boost your religion. Increase your iman. Walillahi alhamdu wal minna. Like I said, inshallah, I hope it's an experience that everyone is able to do. That should be on a Muslim's list. I heard that's a shame. Like I said, people I've known for years been Muslim. You say, you made Umrah yet? Hajj yet? La. No, I haven't. You've been Muslim how long? And it doesn't even come on their tongues. And some of them don't even have their passport yet. I think that Allah knows best. Every Muslim that comes to the religion of the fold of Islam should do their best. The first thing is to go get your passport. So you can be prepared. You never know when Allah might give you the opportunity and you'll be ready. Because that has happened to me. When I was 17 years old, I was able to make Hajj. 17 years old. You know what happened? I wasn't expecting it. You know what happened? Someone told me to get my passport. I got my passport when I was young. 16, I think it was 16. Went to go get my passport. And I just had it on me. And I went down, before I went overseas to study, to Virginia, Fairfax. That's when the days of the sururis. They still down there though, they just hide it. All the sururis and ikhwanis. But at any rate, the deviant sects called the sururis and ikhwanis were down there. That's when I was young. But at any rate, I had my passport on me, and just out of nowhere, they came out of nowhere. I was in the institute. Somebody said, "Do you want to make Hajj?" Out of nowhere, they said, "The only thing we need is your passport." I had it on me. I said, "The only thing you need." He said, "You got your passport?" I said, "Got it." Gave him my passport, put the procedures in, alhamdulillah. So you never know when the law might give you the opportunity. It might just abruptly, haphazardly happen. So first thing, brothers and sisters, go get your passports. Because you never know. Something might happen, Allah might give you his ni'mah out of nowhere, not expecting it. And Allah gives you that ni'mah to go make Hajj to his house. So for that reason we say, when a person is on, that's just a side point. But anyway, so in this regard, I say, brothers, sisters, these type of marriages are what? For a person to perform a marriage or get married while he's in the state of ihram, the nikah is what? It's invalid. It's invalid. So tell the sisters likewise. So the hadith is not applicable just for the what? For the brother. It's applicable for a woman. For a woman likewise, if she's to indulge in marriage during the course of her being in a state of ihram, then likewise the marriage is invalid to her. Likewise. And as we know, the women during the time of Umrah and Hajj does not have to wear izar and alidat. She doesn't wear the cloak or the izar like a man. She wears what she normally wears of jilbab. طيب. So for the things that are impermissible, is a tahrim al-wasa'il. From those also likewise is not only just the marriage that's invalid, but also the methods or the means of one getting married. All these are prohibited. So a person doesn't make the contract himself, not for himself, not for anyone else. And also likewise keep in mind what comes along with this. Likewise is you cannot just not only get married just yourself or marry anyone else. You can't entrust someone else to do it either. By what they call al-walaya or al-wakala. Meaning you say you be the wali or you be the wakil. No. All those things are prohibited while you're in the state of ihram. So you cannot entrust anyone with these duties. Nor can you be the wali. So the person not only doesn't get married or marries a person off, he cannot be the wali, nor can he be the wakil. So it's four things. Number one is he can't get married. Number two, what? He can't marry off. Number three, he cannot be a wali. And number four, he cannot be a wakil. He cannot be a wakil. ولا لغيره ولا بالولاية أو بالوكالة. As long as he is in the state ihram. Nor can he either propose ولا يخطب, meaning he can't have or perform a khitbah. Khitbah meaning he cannot even do the proposal, the mere proposal, because it's considered the means to get married, which will necessitate and it will also lead to one falling into a highly prohibited affair while you're in the state of ihram, which is intimacy itself. Because definitely you're not supposed to, while you're in the state of ihram, you cannot be intimate. While you're in the state of ihram, you cannot be intimate. You cannot be intimate while you stay in the ihram. طيب. ولا يخطب عليه. We also talked about that. Alhamdulillah. I'm going to need to talk about that. So, just to sum up everything, based upon the ayat, which is in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat number 197. Allah Ta'ala says, وَمَنْ فَرَضَ فِيهِنَّ فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَلَا الْجِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. Alhamdulillah, by the fadl of Allah, we are approaching Hajj soon. This Hajj will be with us approximately maybe a month and a week. A month and maybe 10 days. See how time is flying. And the Eid will be in about another month and 10 days. The Eid al-Adha. Let you know how time is flying very fast. So at any rate, so Allah, the Prophet, Allah Ta'ala says, Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat number 197. Allah Ta'ala says, whoever has made it obligatory upon himself to perform the duty of Hajj, then let him not perform rafath. Rafath, ya ma'ash al-ikhwa. Rafath meaning intimacy, meaning sex itself. For rafath is al-jima'. Not only for intimacy itself, but even that which calls to it. Meaning from proposals in marriage, the marriage contract, or even speaking about it, of marriage and any of these matters. They are those methods and means in which will lead to something which is haram while you're in the state of ihram, which is, like we said, intimacy. Because a person is not supposed to what? Involve or indulge in that while he's in the state of ihram. Rather, his focus is supposed to be on what? Hajj, or his focus is supposed to be Umrah. It's a sacred state, and it also, we know, brothers and sisters, performing Hajj and Umrah is a lifetime opportunity. It might not never come around again. So a person performs it, he wants to take advantage of it by being focused only on worship. Not worrying about being intimate, or worrying about something worldly, or worrying about, for example, women or men. Like we need in these particular temporary occasions or these lifetime opportunities, a person devotes to his Lord and focuses on that. Not worrying about whether or not I'm going to be with a lady tonight or when I'm going to be a man tonight. And that's all America propagates that. Everybody always work about is love and sex, love and sex. No. In this particular moment in time, your focus is on Allah. And you're focusing on your hereafter and asking Allah to rectify your life in the different detrimental or affairs that are chaotic in your life right now. And all of us need that. So for that reason, that particular moment in time, you go to Allah, you make that dua, focus on the ibadah, and that's the reason why you'll find that Allah Ta'ala has said, if a person now has made his intention to perform this tremendous pillar or this duty, he says that فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. Do not let one be intimate, meaning la rafath, no intimacy, nor things that call to it. As it said in the hadith, about marrying off or being a wali or being a wakil. None of these, all these matters are prohibited during the time while you're in the sacred state of ihram. In order for one to focus, to devote towards performing this tremendous duty and this pillar of Hajj and Umrah. But at any rate, to make a long story short and make everything concise, one does not want to get married while he's in the state of ihram, nor does he marry anyone off. طيب, look at the next narration, sisters. What do you find? It says here that the Prophet ﷺ married Maymuna bint al-Hilaliyah, bint al-Harith al-Hilaliyah, our mother, radiyallahu anhu abdaha. So it seems as if there's a contradiction. So it says that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ married Maymuna, he was in the state of ihram. Not only that, it says the hadith is muttafaqun alayh. It's agreed upon. That's one of the most highest forms of authenticity. طيب. So the other hadith is likewise you'll find this is Sahih Muslim. This narration is muttafaqun alayh. It's agreed upon. That is one of the most highest forms of authenticity of a narration of the Prophet ﷺ. Then you have in another narration which is in Muslim, clarification for that. Inshallah, this will shed some more light. Maymuna said about herself that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ married her and he was what? Halal. What does it mean, halal here? What does that mean? He wasn't in the state of ihram. طيب, so what do we say in this regard? What do we say in this regard. طيب, you'll find that Ahl Ilm, when they explain this narration, they said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam married Maymuna and she was muhrim. He says, what is apparent from the hadith is that it opposes, it goes against the hadith of Uthman that we just said a couple of minutes ago, we were discussing a couple of moments ago. However, listen to what Ahl Ilm say in this regard. They say that Ibn Abbas, wahim. Ibn Abbas, that he had some what they call awham. That, what's the how you could translate? Tawahham. Tawahhama yatawahhamu. Tawahuman. Now, Ibn Abbas, we have been afflicted with what they call wahm. Meaning that he had the false impression of an affair which he thought was correct, but however, due to some other outside circumstance, that, not in his memory, but he didn't accurately see the story based upon what happened. Why? Because Maymuna, number one, is the aunt of Ibn Abbas. That's her aunt. That's Ibn Abbas is khala. That's his aunt. That's number one. Number two, Ibn Abbas was very young when he narrated the story. Number three, the one who was the sa'i, meaning Abu Rafi'. There was a person that was the mediator who gave the message. Basically the person who organized it, who orchestrated, who did everything to organize the marriage. His name was Abu Rafi'. Abu Rafi' was the one that organized everything. So Abu Rafi' even himself in another narration said, no, the Messenger of Allah, when he married Maymuna, he was not in the state of ihram. So not only do you have Maymuna, who says he wasn't in the state of ihram, who was Ibn Abbas's aunt. Not only do you find Ibn Abbas, they say he was very young when he narrated the story, and Abu Rafi' was the one who organized the whole affair, organized it. He sent the message, he set it up, everything. He was the one that gave the message to Maymuna for it to be what? Organized and everything to be set up. He even said that no, the Messenger of Allah was not in the state of ihram when he married her. So they said that Ibn Abbas what? Wahim. That he had some wahm. That Ibn Abbas got the false impression of an affair that was not correct. So that shows that what is the authentic, was the correct affair is what? Is that the Messenger of Allah married Maymuna while he was what? While he was not in the state of ihram. While he was not in the state of ihram. So that is what's correct. So Maymuna, like she said, she's the one that what? That accurately narrated the story. And Abu Rafi' also aided. Abu Rafi'. No. طيب, the next hadith, and this is the one we'll stop at, inshallah. The hadith of Uqba ibn Amir, the great Sahabi. Uqba ibn Amir, radiyallahu anhu wa. He said that the Prophet ﷺ said that the most deserving of the conditions that needs to be fulfilled is what? By those conditions have made the private parts lawful for one another. طيب. So the most deserving of conditions or prerequisites that needs to be fulfilled of what made the two private parts lawful for one another. طيب. We'll start here and then we'll stop. Inshallah, we'll start and inaugurate and explain the hadith a little bit. Then after that, we'll stop. So, keep in mind that all these marriages are the marriages that we said are invalid. There's a list. Even if a sister wants to summarize, and it has to be long. If a sister wanted to go home and just go back to the ahadith where it starts, or with the marriages that are invalid, and summarize it. And put it on a paper form so she can keep it in her memory. Because the best way you can do it is to summarize it, put it on a piece of paper, and then you write a list. You don't have to get the details of what we mentioned. Just write down what we cover. Like this marriage, for example, nikah al-shighar. Or for example, a man marrying his maternal aunt, paternal aunt. Or, for example, a man marrying his sister, marrying a wife. Of course, we know family members is also in there too. But as far as marrying a woman and her sister, and just writing that down. And even if she wants to add what we discussed a couple of months ago pertaining to what? A man marrying. Of course, a man cannot marry anyone in his immediate family. No one he cannot marry his mother, his sister, his daughters, what have you. If she wants to write down, she can write that down too. But the main thing is to write down what we've been covering of the different narrations that we've been discussing. And just make a little list of it so it can stick in your memory a little bit better. If one wants to, like we said, accurately have all this information in their mind when they need it, then that will aid them in doing that. So the next type of marriage in which we'll discuss what needs to be fulfilled in order for the marriage to be valid. So it's not only pertaining to what the marriage being invalid. So we just discussed how a person, if he marries while he's in the state ihram, it's invalid. So now we're going to discuss a marriage or affairs pertaining to marriage that needs to be fulfilled in order for the marriage to stay valid. And that's what we're going to discuss a bit here. For the most deserving of conditions that needs to be fulfilled, which is by it, the private parts became lawful for one another. So now we're going to discuss two things. You'll find that Ahl Ilm break down the conditions of marriage into two types of conditions. Firstly, number one, the conditions of marriage and the conditions in marriage. Is there a difference? Alhamdulillah, sister said, did anyone say no? Alhamdulillah, nobody said no. Jay, there is a difference. You have what they call shurutun nikah and shurut fin nikah. Conditions of marriage and conditions in marriage. What about this hadith here? What is it pertaining to? In marriage. Or just the conditions of marriage. The conditions in marriage. That's what the hadith is speaking about. That's what the hadith is speaking about. We know before the marriage is done, of course, the shurut an-nikah, the conditions of marriage, meaning to start it off in the first place. This hadith is not pertaining to what starts it off initially. It's not. Of course, we know, in order for a marriage to be valid, it has to be a what? Wali, permission to wali, two upright conditions, upright witnesses, upright witnesses and what? A mahr in the dowry, right? That's in order to make the marriage valid itself, which is the shurutun nikah. Shurut an-nikah. The conditions of marriage, meaning to make it start off to be valid in the first place. So there can be a marriage. Right, everyone? Then you have conditions in the marriage, in the nikah. That's what we're going to discuss. So, when a person now, after the marriage is valid, a sister or brother will now, for example, meet conditions in the marriage. Meaning, for example, okay, if we marry each other, then I do not want to leave my city. I want to stay here close to my family. Now, I'm asking sisters, is that a condition that needs to be stipulated to make the marriage valid or in the marriage? In the marriage. Jayyid. I'll say it again. Maybe I made the question a little bit confusing. Right now, for sisters to say, okay, brother, if we marry, I want to stay here in the city because I want to stay close to my family. Is that a condition that needs to be mentioned to make the marriage valid, or is it a condition that's made in the marriage to keep it valid, basically? Jayyid. So that's what this hadith is discussing. It's not discussing what makes the marriage valid initially. From the wali, the two witnesses, upright witnesses. It's not discussing that. The hadith is discussing what? The conditions that both parties are making in order for their marriage to be what? Of course, to stay valid, of course, but it will involve the benefit of what will help the marriage be copacetic And also likewise, it would be for their benefit. For example, I just gave an example of that. For example, a sister said, okay, if I get married, I want to stay here in the city because I want to stay close to my mother, maybe because she's sick. I want to stay here because I have to care for my mother because she's sick. You understand? Or I want to stay, if I marry, sister, if I marry, the husband can make the same condition too. For example, if I marry you, sister, then I would want to stay temporarily. I would like to, for a month, I would have to care for my mother because she's in the hospital. So you can't come, or for example, you can't live with me because now I'm in a situation where I have to what? Care for my mother. Or I have to care for my father. So those are stipulations that are made in the marriage contract, which is for their benefit, and which can be made. And that's what we're going to discuss right now. A little bit on them because I don't want to get too deep, but we'll discuss the rest of the details later. But at any rate, if the woman now makes this type of condition, which is the conditions in the marriage, and it's for her benefit, it's obligatory upon the husband or the other party to fulfill it and to acknowledge it. He cannot do, for example, now, the sister says this and makes this clear. I'll marry you, but I have to stay and help my mother because she's sick, or I don't want to leave outside the city until my mother is cured from her sickness. And the husband, for example, comes and he reneges. He says, yeah, I know what you said at the beginning of the marriage, but I changed my mind. If the husband does this, then it's allowable now for a sister to request a khul'ah. She can dissolve the marriage because he went against the what? Went against the condition. So this is the time where now sisters should step up to the plate. Because I know it's sad, but a lot of our sisters, alhamdulillah, you have good sisters who have a lot of mercy. Then you have of course we know we have the goods and the bads, no doubt. And that's what pertaining to the men too. We have the good ones and the bad ones. But sometimes our sisters who are too good stay in marriages so long until they become bitter. And they don't know when to what? To move on. The same similar to men. They'll stay in marriages where they're being abused till they become bitter. So now it's incumbent upon us to know what? And notice I said good sisters. Good sisters. You'll find they're good women and good brothers. They'll stay in a marriage where certain things can't be tolerated. Stay into it until they become bitter. And that's when we have to now know when it's time to leave. It's time to let go. Time to move on. So now a brother says this to you. So sister, you still, I'm just going to go along with it. Huh? No. So now don't blame the religious sister. What the religion says, you had the absolute grounds to now say to the brother, khalas, brother, I told you and I made it clear. I have to take care of my mother. I have to take care of her. She's sick. Well, I'll change my mind. All right, well, I'll change my mind. Put the part in kindness. With the part in kindness, and that's it. I don't have to call you. Don't have to call me out my name, you be. I don't have to call you the N-word. We don't have to be a bunch of drama, howling, screaming. And just say kindly, brother, this is not going to work out. And just keep it moving. Is it clear? So these are the type of conditions in the ilm that the sisters need to know what's their rights. And likewise, similar to on the opposite side of the extreme, when it comes to brothers, same thing. If you tell a sister, listen, right now, let's just say my money is tied up temporarily because I'm taking care of my mother and my father. But I can pay these amount of bills, but that's all I can do for now. Until I make sure that my mother and father are straight. After that, inshallah, I'll take care of your bills or I'll fully take care of your maintenance or what have you. So in the course of the marriage, after 1 month, 2 months, because we know certain people, the true person doesn't come out until that bill come in the mail. The bill comes in the mail, then that's when the sister says, time to show who's the true person now. Tayyib. So a brother makes an agreement, says, this sister, I can't marry you unless it's on these conditions. So now the sister reneges. Within one month, she says, my bills need to be paid. Well, I told you, sister, this is what I can do. That's it. This is all I can do. I told you my money right now is tied up with my mother and father. I'm taking care of them. This is all what I can do, and this is what me and you agreed on before the marriage. This was the condition. You said yes. Well, I changed my mind. The brother said, I changed my mind. I don't think this is going to work out. I'm sorry. It's time to move on. We made this clear. This was the condition. So don't try to renege now. So a person agreed to something, you have to fulfill it. These are the conditions. Is it clear what I'm saying so far? Clear what I'm saying so far, everyone? طيب. So the great Imam, he goes on to say, he says, فَإِنْ أَخَلَّ الزَّوْجِ بِشَيْءٍ مِنْهَا فَلَهَا خِيَارُ الْفَسْخِ. Just like I just mentioned. كما لو اشترطت عليه ألا يتزوج عليها فهذا شرط صحيح. Even though I wouldn't agree with that. لأن هذا من مصلحتها فإذا تزوج عليها فلها الخيار إن شاءت بقيت معه وإن شاءت طلبت الفسخ. He says, for example, if the husband was to infringe upon his condition, meaning he reneges or what have you, then the woman has the choice and the alternative of fasakh, to request the what? Dissolvement of the marriage, or annulment of the marriage. So she's not fasakh here. She's in her due. She's justifiably what? Asking for the marriage to be annulled, to be dissolved, or what have you. Let's just say, for example, even if a woman might in the beginning of the marriage might say, I'm making the conditions that you cannot marry me or get married to another woman. The great Imam does say here that that condition, stipulation is correct. Even though the ulama discourage it, not to agree, and a woman shouldn't even make that a stipulation. But if she does do it, then the man agrees, he has to fulfill it. Now, the man had to fulfill it. So a woman makes that prerequisite, says you don't get a second wife or a third wife, and the man says, okay. And I don't know why men do this, because you know more than likely you are going to do it. So do not what? Agree to it. Move on with another sister. There's too many women out here that needs to be taken care of, and they need a husband to help them and aid them. So if a woman says this, no, I make this a stipulation. If a man agrees to it, you have to fulfill it. You cannot get married anymore. You can't get married. She's the only woman. Okay? And that's to our brothers. So you have to fulfill it. طيب فإذا تزوج عليها فلها الخيار. So now, if he was to get married over, now this is what the great Imam even mentions, it says, Sheikh Salih Fawzan. If he's now to get married to another woman, the second wife or what have you, the woman now has the option. إن شاءت بقيت معه وإن شاءت طلبت الفسخ. If she wants, she can remain with him, and if she wants, she can request an what? An annulment. Similar to that, let's just say, for example, we just gave an example of this, alhamdulillah. Let's just say she makes an example that she does not want to what? Be removed from the household she's in, meaning from her city, or from her town, or from her house, or to another city or state, due to a reason, of course. My parents are there, my relatives, I want to stay close to them. I don't want to leave them off. That's a fitna on me. I want to stay close to my family, what have you. Whatever type of situation she's in. If the brother agrees, he has to, for what? He has to fulfill it. However, we'll continue that next class. There's other conditions. It's getting long. Sisters, time stop for Hausa. So for that reason, we'll stop here, inshallah. So those we start with the conditions that are, so keep in mind, this hadith is pertaining to the conditions of in the marriage, or is it of the marriage? In the marriage. In the marriage. Jayyid. So keep that in mind. So those conditions, we'll give numerous other scenarios and examples in the next class. We'll stop here, inshallah, because the class is kind of long. What time is it, Mayor? 4:05? Oh, it's 10 minutes to 5. See, it's late. Whoa. All right, we'll stop here and we'll continue next class, inshallah. Like I said, brothers and sisters, this isn't coming upon us to know. Like I said, especially our good brothers and good sisters out there that don't know their rights to the point, like I said, they stay in relationships too long to the point where they become bitter. And like I said, even for myself, don't think I'm an exception to that. As happened to me. I'm a human being too. I fall into mistakes, and then you learn from your mistakes. You stay in a relationship too long to the point it's time to move on. Especially if you find yourself coming out of your character, losing your religion, you're saying words out of your mouth you know you're not supposed to be using. If you see this from yourself, it's time to move on. It's time to go. You fall into now curse words, profanity, obscenities, punching, physically, all this other nonsense. I ain't saying that. If you see that stuff happening, it's time to move on. It's not staying in the marriage until you become bitter. And you be from those sisters that I've seen, and it's sad. I've seen sisters, they come in, yeah, I want to get married. You could tell they're bitter. They're bitter from a previous experience. Bitter. And it's sad to the point where even some of them will even go to a whole other extreme of lesbianism. I've seen it happen. And we have to be real. That's what happens here. Even with the Muslim sisters. Say, brothers, people laughing. I'm being real. I've seen sisters that have gone to that extreme. I want to be a lesbian. Khalas. There's no good man out here. I'm going to that extreme. I've seen it happen. And that's also going to a whole other extreme. That's the reason why we tell brothers and sisters, don't stay in relationships until you become bitter. When it's time to move on, it's time to move on. Is it clear what I'm saying? If you see yourself going to that level, it's time to move on. Jay, we'll stop here. Any questions about the lesson? Oh. Please don't let it be questions that's taking indirect shots at anyone or somebody's spouse or their husband. طيب, we'll stop here. هذا وصلى الله وسلم بارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.